following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everybody, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz here, and Dan Rylance is with me as well this evening. And we're very pleased to welcome for the first time to the show our brand new school superintendent here in the Oshkosh Area School District. Stan Mack II is here, and we appreciate him being here tonight because we're taping this just a few weeks before school starts. And so in addition to getting up to speed and learning a new job, he's also trying to get ready to kick off a brand new school season, so we're grateful that you're here.
Well,
welcome.
thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Sure, sure. We hope that this will be the first of many visits, so we'll take it easy on you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is kind of getting to know you time.
Exactly,
It is, yeah.
exactly. And so with that, you know, I think a lot of people in the community probably know something about you. They've probably had an opportunity to see, you know, a couple of board meetings that you've been participating in. But for those who maybe haven't, can you just kind of give us a little bit of your background and, you know, what your history in education has been and so forth?
Sure. I'm a native of New Ulm, Minnesota, south central Minnesota. I have a unique experience that is probably not common to a lot of individuals, but maybe more common today with more immigrants. Although my parents were not immigrants, they spoke mostly only German, and I ended up going to school speaking more German than I did English. In fact, that was my primary language is German, and you know, in media you oftentimes talk about 7-second delay. I have the blessing that I think in German and speak in English, and I have a built-in 7-second delay, but I went off to college, and my admission to college based on that heavy mixed German and English background, the admissions always came back, yes, you're welcome to attend here, but we recommend English for the foreign-born. So I spent a lot of time in college learning how to speak into old reel-to-reel tape recorders, reading the newspaper in order to get rid of my accent, which I mostly did. When I would spend time with my father in the past, and he's now passed away, but if I'd spend a week with my father, I'd get my accent back. But I have spent my career in education. I worked my way through college. I worked for Kraft Foods Corporation on permanent part-time, so I did not really know college as a relaxing time. I worked 40 hours a week all through college to support myself going through college, and had a delightful experience working with Kraft Foods, and prepared myself to move on into education or into potentially personnel management, actually, and had the opportunity to stay with Kraft, but chose to go into education. Began as a teacher at South St. Paul Schools, spent 4 years doing that, and went into district administration after 4 years as a 26-year-old. And I've been a superintendent in Minnesota since 1982. As about a 31-year-old, I signed my first superintendent's contract, and although it was a little bit misreported, it was reported that I was age 60. I'm actually age 62 as of June 14th, and have been in education either superintendent or assistant superintendent throughout all of those years, working in Eveleth, Minnesota, and northern Minnesota, about 60 miles north of Duluth. I also had a technical college there. At that time, they were under the local districts. I was superintendent of schools at Northfield, home of Carleton and St. Olaf College, and had the college experience, which was, I think, a kind of a nice prerequisite for working in Oshkosh with university community here. Worked as an assistant superintendent in Burnsville, Egan Savage, suburban Minneapolis, assistant superintendent in Oshkosh Area Schools, and that's not the Oshkosh of Wisconsin, but the Oshkosh Area Schools of Minnesota, which is the largest district I work in with about 22,000 students. And then for 9 years, I was the superintendent of schools at Robbinsdale Area Schools, which is suburban Minneapolis, which include places some individuals might be familiar with, including Robbinsdale, Plymouth, Crystal, New Hope, Southern Brooklyn Park, Southern Brooklyn Center, and Northern Golden Valley. We were just over the border, right on the edge of the school district where the headquarters of General Mills would be in suburban Minneapolis. So the last 3 years, 2.5 years, I served as executive director of the Minnesota Board of School Administrators, which is the licensing agency that managed competencies for superintendents, principals, special ed directors, community ed directors in Minnesota. And I worked with all the universities that licensed them, gave accreditation to those universities. And then the kind of more nasty part of the job, I was the investigator for every allegation of code of ethics, allegations of code of ethics violation against Minnesota principals, superintendents, special ed directors. And that was a job that was good work, but I truly did miss the superintendency. And when I was approached in late April by Bill Attia, who was the consultant who knew of me and knew my past experience, he described Oshkosh to me. And he said, you know, your past experience in a 2 high school district of similar size and similar issues this might be an interesting challenge. Would you take a look at it? And I began a rather intensive study of Oshkosh and learning more and more about it, and came to the conclusion that upon both after initial board interview and then being invited back for a visit with the community and formal public interviews, that it was the right decision, and very happy. I'm father of 3 sons. My oldest son is a graduate of St. John's University in Minnesota, and is 3 years out of St. John's, and is marrying Benny, who is College of St. Benedict, Benny, and is working for a technology company in Minneapolis, and is doing well. Just bought his first home, moved into his first home, and we have twin sons, one at the University of Chicago, who is going to be a sophomore there. He's 1 year behind his twin brother, who is a junior at the University of Minnesota, because our University of Chicago student had the blessing of being a Congress Bundestag exchange fellow for a year in Germany, going to school in Germany for a year. And so we've traveled. We have a lot of German connections and maintain a lot of travel with friends back and forth to Germany. And at some time when I really retire, I think I would still like to retire in Bavaria. I'm Bavarian by background, dark German as opposed to the blonde Nordic German. And my wife is outstanding principal. Margaret is, and she, as teasingly always has been, she's maintained her own name. As she said, you had the privilege of maintaining your own name. Margaret Leibfried is my wife's name. She's a principal of Fridley Middle School. It's an international baccalaureate middle school in Fridley, Minnesota. It has a very growing, healthy environment. She has, it's a wonderful magnet school, of which well over 200 to 250 of her students come from other districts, because it's so respected as an international baccalaureate school. She's completing this year. She's working through the great debate of she's certainly eligible to retire, but at the time that I was employed here, it was a little late to leave the school district that late. It's hard to leave a principalship that much in the lurch that close to the school year. So she's back and forth to Oshkosh. She'll be taking a day vacation tomorrow, and I know that about 8:30 in the morning she'll be on the road to Oshkosh and will be back here with me for the weekend. And she's been going back and forth about every other weekend. So she loves Oshkosh. We have found the community just to be very friendly right from the very beginning.
Excellent. That's a really, really expansive history in education. You know, and you mentioned, thanks for clarifying your age, because the newspaper did report it as 60, but you're 62 as of, you know, earlier this summer. So that brings me to the natural question. You know, at 62, most people, well, depending on what they're doing, they're either retired or they're thinking about retiring, and, you know, I think it's great that you're not thinking about it, but what is it about Oshkosh specifically that kind of, because I'm sure if you did your research, as you said you did, you know, we are not without our issues, and I think in some cases probably more so than other communities have. We've lost a lot of superintendents and administrators over the last several years. What was it about this particular district that sort of spoke to you and drew you in?
Well, I thought it was a manageable project. I think there are issues here that you know, sometimes there are superintendencies where things have been going so smooth, and you could walk into it and you'd have to be just way out of the ballpark to have anyone be as satisfied as they were before. And to me, I like a project, I like a challenge. I have always worked in districts where there was a need to be a fixer. I like being a fixer. I like being a problem solver. And I saw that really the heart and soul of the community, the caring folks that I met through the process, whether they were citizens in the community, our employees, teachers, principals, district administrators, I found a school board that is really caring, really worried about the future, and in spite of kind of the raucous history that I think would be a nice way of putting it, that it was a possible challenge that I thought was fully manageable, and I've been in the superintendency long enough, and if you trace back going since 1982, and now some all those years later, I've been through a lot of the trials and tribulations of being a school leader. And for me, I was very comfortable walking into that and saying, this is fixable, manageable. I know the business. I've said to a number of different audiences that of the project, of 80%, I know from my experience coming into the district, 10% is getting to know and understand and learn about Oshkosh and the nuances and respecting the history, the relationships. Some of the, every community is unique, and then another 10% is just coming to terms with school laws and statutes in Wisconsin that are uniquely different, and that to me is of course a critical element. It's a little frustrating in the fact that I could teach school finance and school law in Minnesota, but there's enough of a difference that I need to be a student here as I garner some of those pieces, and so I've been doing lots of reading, both statutorily and process-wise, and reading through the every publication I can regarding Wisconsin issues. But what's been most enjoyable is learning the history of Oshkosh. To me, I'm a historian in political science by original background, and to me, I know and understand the community better by understanding where its history came from, where its people came from, what are some of the issues, and then, and to a certain extent, all communities have kind of some of the self-inflicted wounds that exist here, and sometimes they're more visible, sometimes they're carefully hidden, and then that's a ruder discovery. I think here a lot of the issues have been fairly well played out, and so I think they're easier to tackle with honesty and integrity and openness, and so that's how I operate.
Okay. Just one real quick question yet on the age thing, because I know that you know, people were kind of blogging about this when you were first hired. You know, they were saying, well, you know, he's 60 years old. Okay, so now we've got 2 years added to that. They're saying, you know, our last super he lasted 18 months. How long can this guy, given his age, you know, he's probably going to be thinking about retiring at some point. What's your thoughts about retirement?
Oh, well, I told the board that, first of all, I tried retirement. I did that Board of School Administrators position after I left the superintendency, and I was somewhat bored to death, and I was, and I missed the challenge of the superintendency, and a number of individuals over time had said, you know, having another growth experience, trying to learning a perspective on the profession you've loved in another state, and growing with it is good. So no, I've committed to the board that if the working relationship, and I know that I teasingly say that if I know I've behaved myself all my life. They did a thorough background check on everything that could ever be there, as my previous job had. I will not get into any issues, but my trust is that the board and community will be there. That I would look at working through age 70, because I think it does take 8 to 9 years. My last superintendency, I spent 9 years, and we really made a difference. We turned around a district to live within its means and to deal with adjustments that were necessary to have it successful, to keep it out of financial difficulties. And so my commitment is that we look at a long term, and that I target at minimum 8 years to do the job. I see more and more colleagues, and I see individuals in business and industry that are working well past what had been the historical retirement age. And we know, because of our U.S. economy and all of these issues, that even the reformers in Washington are talking about changing retirement ages. Or why would we have an otherwise healthy person? I run or walk on treadmill or outdoors 4 miles a day, sometimes 5, and I stay healthy. I have a good day every morning because I have an appointment with the treadmill at 5:15 or 5:20, and staying healthy is pretty important to me, and so I enjoy coming to work refreshed and feeling good, and I'm not worried about that. But I think the district deserves continuity.
Sure.
And that, to me, 8 to 9 years is a real reasonable point in time.
I can't really ask you about what you're going to do or what you've done, because you haven't been here that long. So I'm going to look at the past a little bit.
Sure.
And if these comments or quotes are unfair, let me know. There was a mill increase election in Robbinsdale in 2008, and the school lost by a vote of 53 to 47%. And after the vote, you called the opposition, quote, racist, without conscience, and untruthful. You were later sued for libel, and that suit was finally dismissed. Do you think maybe racist was a bad word to use at that time?
No, it wasn't, because it was true, and it was in 2007.
I'm sorry,
2008,
okay,
we
okay.
passed a referendum, but
Okay.
2007, yeah, that was correct, because the data that was spread was racist in nature, and you become a part of racism if you don't call it as it is. And so, no, I was fully comfortable with responding to that, and I would do it again, because the behavior was inappropriate. It was adults behaving badly, and they really undermined the good efforts of a committee by telling untruths. And I was sued in federal district court, which I would be glad to go through again, because being truthful and ethical stands well above misbehavior that's not so.
Okay. I think we got the impression, reading the Oshkosh Northwestern, that maybe this was your only application. I found that you applied for 4 superintendency jobs, St. Paul, Boston, and Bismarck, North Dakota, before Oshkosh. Is that correct?
Actually, and there was one before that. Actually, there was. It was not Boston, but it was a suburb, a northern suburb of Marblehead, Massachusetts, and actually 2 months earlier, I was one of the semifinalists in Greenwich, Connecticut, just outside of Manhattan. So.
Okay. Gut feeling. Why didn't you get the jobs in the other places, and why did you get the job here?
Because I probably wasn't the best match for that environment.
Okay.
Frankly, I would have enjoyed and loved both Marblehead and Greenwich. But frankly, first of all, I was hesitant in one major way. In neither one of those could a beginning or a superintendent transfer afford to live there, and and that was certainly because Greenwich and Marblehead are extremely high wealthy communities, of which at Greenwich I was one of at Marblehead I was one of 2 finalists. Actually, the then newly retired Green Bay superintendent was selected for Marblehead.
You don't have a doctorate, is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you think that was maybe a contributing factor?
Possibly, but yeah, that is in process, and I'm working on that right now. But it could very well have been.
I know a lot of places require that, don't they?
Yeah, they require that. The issue is license, but the academic preparation is nice to have, but essential and not essential. And I've spent quite 27 years being a successful superintendent without it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Another one? Can I ask?
Sure, go ahead.
Sort of an essay question to begin
Sure.
with. You know, I have teacher relatives in North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the standard answer I get is, why do the public have such low esteem for teachers? My question is, why do they, and what can you as a new superintendent in Oshkosh do to ameliorate that?
Well, to a certain extent, I don't think that's universally true, but I think there is an element there of somewhat in the past. I think the motivation. You know, you talk to a less than above average teacher who might say, you know, I took the job in education because of summers off or those kind of things, and I think when you compare and contrast that with the vast majority of teachers who are highly motivated. I look at, I've been around and I've now just completed the last of the detailed tours of every single building in the district.
Okay.
As of yesterday noon, I got through every one, and in those that we were doing yesterday, and I've stopped by for other reasons, a number of our buildings, teachers who are not under contract and not working until a week from Monday are busy working in their classrooms, getting it set. They're excited, and certainly among any group of teachers, just like in a general population, you also have those who will show up on the day that's appointed to be there and be a party to that. I think there is there's an element there of some of the behavior and some of the aspirations of some teachers, especially the past, who denigrated the profession. I think there's, and that's true in many professions. I look at when I'm looking at ethical complaints against whether it's teachers or administrators or nurses or physicians or attorneys, there's always an element there. Because there are more teachers, there's naturally the greater chance of identifying a subgroup of individuals who are less than top performers. But as a whole, I look at the teaching profession as a very honorable profession that really prepares the next generation well. I was blessed with having good teachers going through school. I still remember a handful of them that should have been doing something else. We all can remember that, and that's certainly an element. But the teaching profession is a very honorable profession, and as we face the new environment under Act 10, a whole lot different world that we're facing in appropriately managing and working with teachers, because some of I think the resentment of the public has related to the issue of protection or the allegations of really a lifetime employment regardless of how bad you are. And my experience in a number of those years, both in Burnsville and in Oshkosh School District, I was the assistant superintendent for human resources and did all the labor negotiations and also for the district, and also was, as I would refer to it, as the firer and hirer, and as, or lovingly called, the assistant principal for adults. And when you do that job, you know all the needs and sometimes the non-performers, and over time escorting quite a number of non-performers to the door. Those behaviors of individuals do create negatives for the profession, but as a whole, it's a very honorable profession, of which I don't think there's any greater responsibility other than that of doctors and nurses in preserving life, that of bringing forth, with the assistance of parents, the education of children and youth. That's a noble profession.
Okay. You want me to go?
One more.
Sure, go ahead.
You realize this is Act 10 country.
Right.
And teachers really took it in the shorts. And just to give you an example, enrollment of education majors at UWO this fall is 1,200. Last year it was 1,600. kids don't want to go into teaching, and particularly in Wisconsin, where they have really lost what they feel is a basic right to bargain collectively, which you have in Minnesota. They no longer have that in Wisconsin.
Right.
So that's a much tougher. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Okay. As we kind of mentioned a little bit ago, Stan, our last superintendent was here for about 18 months. And again, we've lost a lot of administrators over the last few years as well. And I think, and I'm not alone in this thought, that a lot of the negativity spewed forth by some in the community is what helped in large part to run these folks off. No concrete proof of that, but, you're making an educated guess. So what does Stan Mack II bring to the table, or what is it in your gut and so forth that when the going gets really tough and nasty, that's going to keep you hanging in there?
Well, I first of all have the blessing of experience in having worked in environments that may at varying times, in one of your earlier quotes regarding Robbinsdale operating referendum in 2007, I've been tested regarding the issue of oppositional behavior, upset people, and personal attacks and those kind of things, and they're never pleasant. But the issue that really needs to be there is to stay above the fray, and be honorable, be respectful, be truthful, and always be ethical. And I think that is an essential responsibility. I know that that in some circles, when you ask the question of calling individuals racist, when it would have been unethical on my part to not say that when the behavior was racist, because then you actually become a part of the problem. When these issues surface, I always believe in going to the source, to having reasonable conversations with those who might want to be in a position of opposition, but also having good discussions about the fact that we may disagree on the facts or the conclusions, but the bottom line is we're only in business to serve and educate children and youth in the community, and I take that responsibility very, very high, and that's really the only reason to be in business. That old Gerber commercial that used to run, and they can't use it anymore because they're part of a big conglomerate, but the old Gerber commercial used to be, "Babies are our business, our only business." Well, the education of children and youth is our only business. And if we are not doing all we can to advocate and prepare the next generation for us to successfully live in society and potentially assist us in our retirement, and to also really ensure that an educated society will protect what I think is paramount in the U.S., and that is a strong democracy, it's critical.
We have no shortage of issues here. I don't know that we have any more than other districts do. I tend to think we probably do. But what would you say, other than money, because it all comes back to money in the long run, other than money, what would you say are some of our more challenging issues?
I think there's a confidence gap because of the kind of banging around that has occurred in the district, and I think that restoring trust and confidence in a relationship with the community, I think, is a critical one. I think making sure that our delivery system is current with 21st century education, including the growth and use of technology. We are delivering still education in a factory assembly line fashion, like was done pre-industrial or just post-industrial revolution, going back to the 1850s. One person on stage passing out information, and then testing to see whether the information that they were throwing to the masses was caught. And we really need to look at the issue that not all children learn or will learn in that way, and that it's not necessarily economically an efficient way of delivering instruction, but the advent of many different forms of technology being available to deliver instruction, driven by teachers who would be guides by the side rather than that lecturer on the stage is a critical aspect. So changing our delivery system. The other is we certainly have, which is also somewhat tied back to resources, we have a long neglected, aged facilities that some of which are in excellent, I was taken on the tour from the worst to the best. So the last day I've really been in the best condition and not always the newest. I look at Reed Elementary, which is a wonderful preservation and restoration project, to a new Jefferson that's 10, 12 years old, on all of those varying schools that are of that generation. But we have a large deferred maintenance issue that we are really irresponsible in not tackling, and that's being taken underway. But we're approaching maybe only handling 20% of the 25% of the facilities needs that exist in the district. So those are pieces that need to be done. I think also we have a wonderful leadership staff with some very interested teachers in trying to find ways to upgrade the curriculum so that it is also of the most current and most effective way of delivering. I'm just really impressed with a strong commitment from that, and some very entrepreneurial principals and teachers who have worked together on applying for grants and supporting that investment in technology that really needs to be spread universally across the school district. We piloted some things, and now we need to find ways to support it having universal access across the district.
We're almost out of time, and I want to get a couple other things in here if I can real quickly. Oaklawn, obviously Oaklawn is underway now, the construction of it. Why did it take, well, I realized that we had to wait for school to get out, but here it is the middle part of August, and we're just kind of getting underway with this now. What took so long to get that project underway?
Well, the process from its passage in April has actually worked along in a fairly rapid pattern, with still being on target for construction to be completed so that we can have school open in the fall of 2013 for the 13-14 school year. Design issues are working to make sure that it is LEED certified, and making sure that both in dismantling the existing school and in preparing the new school, that we are using the most energy efficient and really green process. But the design plans are coming along, those pieces, and removing and going through the process for bidding and removing the school site. We have now, the site is now nearly completely cleared. It started a week ago Monday, and as of yesterday, with a few demolition materials left on the ground, only the 1991 edition remains, which was intended to remain until the other construction was done. So it takes that long with design, getting all the permits, doing all things proper and legal, and I think our staff, the only issue, but construction techniques have changed drastically, but hopefully we have a decent winter for construction, and we will certainly be in the ground well before frost.
All right, we're out of time.
Well,
it went too fast.
I'll be so glad to come back and visit
We can
further.
talk about strategic planning and boundary changes.
Right. Yeah.
Some of those things that
Got a
we've
lot
been
of things
talking
we want
about.
to cover.
Yep.
So.
Those are,
All right, well, just sit tight. Thank
Okay.
you for being here, and we're going to take a short break. When we come back in a couple of minutes, we'll be talking with someone from the county's Veterans Services Office, so we'll be right back.
Every year, the U.S. Department of the Treasury receives about 1.4 million reports of problems with paper checks. Checks can be lost, stolen, or delayed. If you still receive Social Security payments by paper check, Treasury wants you to know about a safer, more convenient way to get your money. the Direct Express Prepaid Debit MasterCard. The Direct Express card is new and is available to anyone receiving Social Security benefits, even if you don't have a bank account. Your monthly benefits will be automatically placed onto your card account each month on the day your money is due. While other debit cards cost money, it is possible to use the Direct Express card for free to make purchases, pay bills, and get cash at thousands of locations nationwide. There are no sign-up or monthly account fees. No more waiting for the mail or worrying about lost or stolen checks. Call 1-877-212-9991 or visit www.usdirectexpress.com.
And welcome back to Eye on Oshkosh. We're joined now by Robert Stone. He is the County Veterans Service Officer for Winnebago County, the Department of Veterans Services for the county. And we're very happy to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
County Board Supervisor Bill Wingren suggested we have you on. So if this doesn't go well, you can blame him, right?
Absolutely.
Bill is the chair of our supervising committee, so speak highly of him.
So anyway, you know, I think the best place to start, and we kind of talked about this when I first contacted you by phone, you know, a lot of people don't know what you do. They don't even know of your agency. So want to touch on the basics of who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Okay.
Exactly what is the Department of Veterans Services?
We are a department that's established under Chapter 45 of the Wisconsin State Statutes. Was initially implemented in 1935. So we've had 75 plus years of existence. We are designed specifically to act as a liaison between the veteran and the Department of Veterans Affairs, whether that be state or federal. Something that's kind of unique to us, and people think that we are the VA. We're not the VA, we're the county, and I always remind people when they're at my desk that they're the boss. We're the coach, and we try to instruct them as best we can in the experience that we've garnered over the years to put the game plan together and submit it to the right place so that their application for benefits are successful.
Okay, so even though you're providing services to veterans, you are not Veterans Affairs, you're Veterans Services.
That's correct.
But you kind of work hand in hand at all, or?
The people in the VA, both state and federal, are very familiar with us.
Okay.
And I say that from a positive perspective, and we work hand in hand with them. There's many times that we can be beneficial in providing the evidence that's necessary to successfully complete a claim or get them referred to the medical provider that might be able to provide them with the services that would be consistent with their needs.
So are you a county agency then?
Yes.
You are,
That
okay.
makes us unique in that we can advocate for people without fear of our jobs, if you will. We're not employed by the VA, federal or state. The state does provide some money for the function of the office. We basically use that for outreach, veterans promotion, and to enhance services to veterans.
Okay.
So.
All right. And what kinds of services are we talking about here?
We are primarily the storefront, the place where people come, either out of curiosity or referral by their friends and neighbors or professional people for services. We've got an in-office system that equips us with all of the application forms. We have access to all of the information, that sort of thing. So we basically receive them when they come for express their needs for care or assistance.
Okay. And what might some of those things be that people need? What do they come to you for?
One of the biggest things, and probably the biggest program that the federal VA has, the federal VA has three aspects. They've got the benefits side, They've got the hospital side, and then another side that's not as frequently thought of is the cemetery.
Okay.
But they come to us for all of those. The benefit side, veterans that are injured in the service come to us for compensation. Those that are recently discharged or potentially looking for a change in vocation come to us for education, also another benefit. The medical side, it would be very similar to, well, the clinic that we have in Appleton, the VA Medical Center in Milwaukee are the two facilities that provide the bulk of the service here, but we also refer people to the VA Medical Center in Toma occasionally, and so war wounds, injuries, those that are visible and those that are invisible. I'd certainly like to take this opportunity, if I could, to bring the Vet Center. Vet Center is an arm of the VA Medical Center that provides, again, local service to combat veterans and in the form of counseling. And I'm very proud to announce the fact that Winnebago County hosts Vet Center in our office. We have a gentleman that comes every week and counsels veterans on a one-to-one basis, and twice a month he comes and does a group for us, and so we're very, very fortunate and pleased that we're able to do that.
Okay. I want Dan to jump in here, but before I do that, I'm trying to get a handle on exactly how you differ from the VA, and Dan knows the answer, I'm sure.
Sure.
So for those out there who don't, and for me, what is the main distinction between Veteran Services, which is what you do, and Veterans Affairs?
We're local.
Okay.
People can come to us.
Okay.
We're part of the community.
Okay.
The community supports us. We have not that the federal and state VA don't have the veteran at heart, because they do.
Sure.
But I think that we come with a little different perspective than them. All of our claims work that we submit to the federal VA, we go through a liaison, and we do that with release of informations. When veterans receive correspondence back, and the application process can be very daunting, very intimidating. And we've done it enough times, we're comfortable with it, and we can put some of those concerns, can dispel some of those concerns and assist them in getting it worded properly. We're familiar enough with medical situations to get what the actual circumstances are onto a piece of paper, onto an application, and into the hands of an adjudicator or someone that's going to be processing that and hopefully extending a benefit to the veteran.
So the same kinds of things can be handled by either you all or the VA, but with Veteran Services, it's because it's local, it's probably a little bit more personalized service that you're providing.
And we'd like to think that we can cover a lot more bases as well. The VA provides compensation, for example, on 3 different perspectives: the direct, secondary, and presumptive. A lot of medical conditions are a result of an aggravated from a service-connected condition. One that's very popular that we see every day is that of diabetes. Diabetes is a presumptive service-connected condition for veterans that have been exposed to Agent Orange. But with diabetes comes a whole list of other medical-related conditions. And if a person would, for example, go online, you can get the 526 application form and apply for diabetes, and you can get rated 10%. But do you think about the peripheral neuropathy? Do you think about the retinopathy? Do you think about the hypertension? Do you think about all of those other conditions that are related to the diabetes? And we can coach that. We can help that. We can those folks with that. We can get that onto a piece of paper. We can refer that person to a professional in the field to get a diagnosis and a nix's opinion if that's what we need. And so we can help them with putting the claim together.
Okay, thank you very much.
Would it be fair to say, and I kind of read through your website and I got your monthly report for July, which is an incredible amount of work you do. You're kind of an ombudsman or an advocate for veterans from Winnebago County to deal with the bigger bureaucracy?
I couldn't put it better myself.
Okay.
Very excellent observation.
Okay, just I'll share this. This is a July 12 report. You know, Wingren, you know, he finds these things all the time. No, I'm kidding. You had visited 269 clients in the month of July. You had correspondence, 385 pieces of correspondence, 131 emails received. That's in 1 month, and I assume Judy is the only other. You only have 2 employees, that basically, or do you?
Actually, we have 6
Oh, you do?
people
Okay.
that work with us.
Okay.
The task is immense,
Okay.
and we're just. I shouldn't suggest that we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg, but as recently as yesterday, the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial Wall came to town. I was so pleased to be able to be part of that.
Yeah,
One of the bikers that was riding with us was complaining. He says, "I've been trying to get my discharge paper for 18 months, and nobody seems to know anything about it." So rather sarcastically, I suggested I could probably get that for you in 15 minutes.
It's probably one of those ones that Terry will be added for August.
Yes, and I invited him over to the office, and it was about 15 minutes I had provided him with the documents. And furthermore, and I take this opportunity to brag a little bit, he was going to school, paying his own way. Now we're applying for a veteran's benefit so that he
Which
will...
they can do at all universities, go in and talk to somebody, right?
Absolutely, but he was not doing that.
Sure.
We applied for the medical care that now he'll be eligible for. So there's many other benefits that just because of a chanced encounter, we haven't moved, but now he's aware of us because of the event that happened. So
Where is your office located?
we're actually 2 doors down to the west from the courthouse.
Okay.
504 Algoma.
Okay.
And we also have a branch office at 211 North Commercial in Neenah. And so we have a satellite there, and that is a 5-day-a-week office as well. We have 1 benefit specialist in that office.
Okay. All right. So 504 Algoma Boulevard here in town,
Yes.
and a satellite office of 211 North Commercial in Neenah.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Were you in the service?
I was, yes, I'm proud of that.
Where and when?
I was in the service between 1971 and 1976.
Okay.
Served in the U.S. Navy,
Okay.
and I was electronics technician. And what am I doing here? Yes.
I want to ask sort of a quantification question about the type of veterans you serve. There can't be too many World War II veterans left, are there?
I think that's kind of a misnomer.
Is it? Okay. More than what
what's happening with the World War II veterans is they're wrestling with end-stage life issues,
Okay.
long-term care, financial circumstances, and those types of things. I have a special spot in my heart for them.
I bet.
Actually, when I started this job 35 years ago, I was dealing with the World War I veterans.
Okay.
And the World War II veterans are actually, as far as life is concerned, experiencing the same.
How many World War II veterans are there in Winnebago County?
Oh, I'm sorry that you asked me that. I can tell you
withdraw it.
there are about 13,500 veterans
Okay.
in Winnebago
of all
County.
wars?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, 13,500 in the county. So these people are off Main Street in a lot of cases. But they're very much in our concerns, and they are beneficiaries. One of my most moving cases was a World War II veteran that was involved with close encounter combat in Germany, and he didn't share that with me until he had been discharged from the service for 60 years. 60 years. So we actually do combat post-traumatic stress disorder claims for World War II veterans yet to this day. But then it's all the way from people that are in their 90s down to 1918. So
Wow.
One more on Korean vets, Vietnam vets versus the current vets from Iraq and Afghanistan. What are the similarities and differences on the services that those 2 categories of servicemen ask for or need?
a veteran is a veteran.
Okay.
And I would say that. Each war has got its own battle imprint. The Vietnam veteran comes to us a lot of times wrestling with either post-traumatic stress disorder, exposures to Agent Orange and related disabilities from that. The Iraqi veteran comes from the same mold. The IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and the percussion illnesses. Now we're dealing with traumatic brain injuries, post-traumatic stress disorder. The numbers, I'm I guess, comfortable enough to suggest that anybody that's experienced true combat comes away a different person. And those are the disabilities that I refer to. Those are the injuries that I refer to that are invisible scars of war. Those are the invisible scars. We can see those that are dealing with amputations and those types of things. One of the characteristics of the recent wars is the injured have a better chance of survival. And so the incidence of casualties is less, but the incidence of the victims is more. And I would use this opportunity as well to compliment the federal VA in their medical services that are providing in vocational rehabilitation. Just the medical services is incredible. They've devised the bionic arms and those types of things. It's very amazing what they do now
Thank you for those answers.
as to what they could do.
Yeah. You know, we talk in terms of veterans and what you can do for them, but it's not just the veterans who are eligible for your services. When you and I talked off camera on the phone one day, you were telling me about a woman whose husband had, I think he was deceased.
Yes.
Might have been from World War II. I'm not sure. Do you remember telling
I
me
do
that
remember the
story?
case, and yes.
And you were able to help her secure some benefits. Can you just speak to us a little bit about, you know, what types of things you're able to offer to a widow or widower of a veteran?
I'd like to just share the case that we
Yes,
we
please.
chatted with. It happened to be the widow of a Vietnam veteran.
Vietnam.
Her husband had a heart attack in 1996. Applied for VA compensation and was denied because Agent Orange exposure didn't cause heart attacks in 1996. He died in 1999, and she applied for dependent indemnity compensation. If a veteran dies as a result of a service-related condition, the VA can pay what they refer to as dependent indemnity compensation to surviving spouses, and that can include education of children, medical services as well. Well, when she applied for the DIC in 1999, that was denied because he died of a heart attack, and that wasn't a service-related condition. Years later, NEMR comes. NEMR is a court case.
Okay.
And they ruled that if an individual applied for a benefit and was denied, that was later added to the list of eligibles, that the date of eligibility would be as established the date the person initially applied. So the widow that we mentioned there received a check for $208,233. Very significant, $250,000.
Yeah.
A lot of money. That doesn't bring the veteran back, and we grieve for that with each one. But that is a benefit that enhances the quality of life for the survivor, and that's kind of the intent there. So, and we can do some wonderful things. It's coincidental. After I had received the information and was doing what we call an exit interview with her, I asked her, I says, what brought you to us after all of these years? Why, we do advertising, we do the monthly reports, all of the county board people around the service organization, everybody theoretically should know about it. She said, my brother told me that I should get down here and see you. Yeah, and so it's coincidental things like that, like the biker that I spoke to last night. We've been there, and it's a very refreshing type of a job to be able to do that for people.
Well, and before our time runs out, we've got time left, but I just want to make certain that we get this in here. You can, if you want more information on what Robert's office does at the Department of Veteran Services, you can go on the county's website, Winnebago County's website. You can also phone them at 236-4898, 236-4898. And there's a number here in Neenah also, 729-4820. Am I reading that correctly?
I believe so.
That looks right. So anyway, feel free to check that out. So go ahead, Dan.
A personal comment. You seem very energetic and very committed and very personal. I think people in this county are very lucky to have you as the veteran
thank you.
officer. I
Thank
just
you.
feel your enthusiasm and your commitment
Thank you.
and your dedication. So.
Yeah, I use this. I brag quite a bit. I'm the dean of CVSOs in the state of Wisconsin, and And you get that by living longer than anybody else.
How long have you been the Veterans Officer here?
I've been here, will be 5 years in November, and have enjoyed
I hope you stay
the whole
around
stay.
a while.
Well, thank you very much. The welcome mat was definitely spread for me to come here, and I would certainly compliment the board, the county exec, and the philosophy that's extended to us for veterans. I know that we're in the budget process right now, and budgets are tight, but we've been able to provide the services and those resources that we just felt we needed through the generosity and cooperation of the board and the county exec. So been very good.
How large of a budget do you have, out of curiosity, in your office?
We are around 300, a little better than 350,000,
Okay.
and that's the. would
You
be
got
our staff.
revenue of 13,000. I don't know where that, does that come from the state?
That's that state grant that I mentioned.
Okay,
Yes.
All right, good.
Go ahead, Dan.
I know a little bit about the federal VA and appropriations, but I don't know very much about the state. How much money does the state of Wisconsin appropriate for veterans in Wisconsin? And what is the money mainly used for?
I'd like to dance around the stump a little bit if I can.
I
on
may
that.
not have been asked correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The federal VA, we received last year over $40 million of direct payments to veterans and medical care from the federal VA
For the state of Wisconsin.
for Winnebago County.
Winnebago County.
Winnebago County.
Wow.
Yes, that goes to Winnebago
Okay.
County. The state now is really been under a budget crunch.
We know.
The home loan program, the wonderful home loan program that at one time the State Department of Veterans Affairs was the biggest single lender in the state. Now they haven't made a home loan in over 2 years.
Okay.
So the emphasis of the VA, state VA, has changed immensely. Right now they're focusing on employment. One of the major benefits that Winnebago County receives right now from the federal VA is one that is seldom seen or heard from, is if a veteran is rated 100% service-connected disabled, they're eligible to have their property taxes waived. Not waived, but it's reimbursed.
Okay.
It's reimbursed. They pay them, and the state pays them back. And this comes from general purpose revenue. That's a very big benefit. We have at the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, about 400 veterans going to school. If a veteran went into the service from Wisconsin, he goes to school for free. Very wonderful benefit. If he's rated 30% disabled, his wife and children can go to the university or the VOTEC for free. So I wished I had that dollar figure for those benefits.
But that's considerable.
It's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is. We're almost out of time, but you know what? Let me take a look here at my question and make sure I have covered everything else here before I ask that. Obviously, you know, how can people go about finding out more about what it is you do and how you might be able to help them? If they don't see something on the website, they should obviously call your office.
And if they do see something on the website, we pride ourselves in we don't assign homework. We don't send forms home with people. We don't give them a packet of stuff and tell them to bring that back when they got it filled out. We do one-on-one. People say, well, you can get that on the web. A lot of the clients that we deal with can't. And for those that can, that's wonderful. And we could, I'd probably even suggest that we could do a better job for them. But if they're a veteran, I would encourage them to come down. If you haven't had your discharge paper recorded, do that. And that's exactly what happened to the gentleman that I ran into last
They
night.
have to have that to really start the process, don't they?
The discharge paper, the DD-214, is the key to the door. That's what I refer to. You know, I mean, if you're a veteran, you've got a discharge paper, and that'll get you started. So there's some very. I'd like to mention one other jewel in the crown of Wisconsin veterans benefits, and it's a veterans home at King. As veterans age and their need for long-term care manifests itself to the point where we're going to have to do something here. The Veterans Home at King is just down the road a few miles from here, and it's a wonderful, gorgeous place.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's very informative.
So
pleasure.
again,
Thank
if
you.
you're a veteran or the spouse of a veteran and you have a need, or you're not sure if you have a need or not, feel free to give them a call.
Absolutely.
All right? Thank you very much for being here again. It's been very informative,
My
and thank
pleasure.
you for everything that you're doing for the vets and their families.
Thank you.
All right, and that's going to do it for us. We will see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.